Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Fertility Confidence Podcast. Today, I'm teaching you a phrase that I say to my clients inside Fertility Confidence Method almost, let's not say every day, at least once a week, and a phrase and a term that I want you to really ingrain in your brain to help you work through cycle to cycle in your fertility journey with significantly less stress, because we can all agree that there's a lot of stress that comes with this journey. And we've all read the blogs and the Reddit threads and the TikToks that are like, you can't stress. If you stress, you're never going to get pregnant. But then your brain's like, well, how the heck do I not stress about this incredibly stressful situation? So my goal with my clients is never to come at stress from a topic of like, we need stress reduction, right? But we want to come at it from a lens of where can we make really simple tweaks to your overall mindset and to your overall stress management resiliency pieces and the factors of stress that you have on your plate. What are the low hanging fruit? And this one piece is a super low hanging fruit that every single time I have this conversation with a client, they're always like, oh, I feel so much better. So let's get into this week's episode. First and foremost, we're going to be talking a little bit about cycle tracking. And if you are someone who finds cycle tracking very stressful, or if you've ever asked yourself the question, what the heck does this mean? This episode is for you. We're not going to get into the nitty gritty of how to track your cycle. We've done that in previous episodes for you that I'll actually link in the show notes so that you can go back and listen to those if this is a new concept for you. But today we're talking about this concept of one wonky cycle is not a trend. This is the phrase that I use with my clients every single week when we are looking at their cycle charts and they're going, Dr. Kelsey, what the F is going on? And a lot of times, even just today, okay, so I run an office hours for our FCM clients Monday to Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So anytime one of our clients has a question and they want to talk to me in a video face-to-face format, they can do that Monday to Thursday. And so we look at cycle charts in our office hours every single day. And just today, like an hour ago, I was on office hours and I'm looking at, as someone had sent over their chart and they're like, things are looking really weird. And I opened it up and I was like, yeah, things are looking really weird. Like sometimes this shit just happens, right? And women in general, we are going to have 1 to 2 wonky ass cycles every single year. It's just going to happen. And we'll talk about why these things happen in a second, but I really want everyone who's going through their fertility journey to understand that there is just things in life that are going to create a wonky ass cycle. And if in the fertility space, what will happen with that is you will likely become very stressed, very anxious. You'll start asking yourself, what the heck is wrong? Something's broken. I need labs. We need to invest, right? Like you just go into fix it mode, which valid. Like I'm not saying that's the wrong route to go down. But what I've found over the years with working with our clients is this idea that we have to play a little bit of the wait and see game. And if you've followed me for any length of time, you'll know that in the fertility space, I don't believe in just waiting and seeing for anything else, truly. I think the fact that the mainstream medical model makes you wait a year before you get any sort of testing or referrals is dumb and a waste of time. I think that the fact that the mainstream medical model won't assess you for reasons for miscarriage and risk factors for miscarriage until you've had 3, because that's silly and a waste of time. And that's exactly why I do what I do, right? Is because there are other ways and tools and strategies that are backed by science and research to help you improve and optimize your fertility. And you don't need to wait to get support. Even though your doctor is a bit of a gatekeeper, you don't need to follow that model. You don't need to wait. This is like the one area in fertility that I'm like, okay, we need to sit on this for a hot minute. So I teach my clients, and I say this phrase to my clients all the time when they come to me with a cycle chart that they're like, what on earth is this? What is this telling me? What does this mean, right? They are now in the doom spiral. They've been watching their wonky temperatures for 25 days, and now they're spiraling. And it's my job to remind them that one wonky cycle isn't a trend yet. We're charting data. We want to collect the data. And when it comes to cycle charts, we need to acknowledge that we want to see this data over 2 or 3 charts before we're really making decisions and changes. If we're making changes and adjustments to our plan every single time our cycle chart looks a little bit off, you are not going to have the consistency that your body needs to truly optimize your fertility potential. We have to sometimes pump the brakes a little bit. And this is one of those situations. So, for example, some of the times that we're saying this is we actually had a conversation today in office hours around how we've had some really wonky cycle charts where it looks like people have ovulated, but they haven't. And, it's just like come right back down again. And so this is something that we're seeing as a pattern. Maybe you're seeing it in your charts too, where you will rise, 0.8 to 1 degree, but you don't stay there. You come back down. This is a wonky pattern. And yes, if we're consistently seeing this pattern happening over and over and over again, we maybe want to do a little bit of investigation, but it also might just be like a weird thing that your body does. That's actually not pathological. And we don't want to get too upset or up in arms about it happening just one time. We want to see it become a trend. We want to see it happening over 3 cycles. Another common wonky cycle fear that women come to me with is spotting. They maybe don't normally get spotting and now all of a sudden they are, or maybe they typically get a day or 2 of spotting, but now they have 5. Maybe they typically get a day of spotting before their period, but now all of a sudden they're spotting around ovulation. Any change in spotting, we want to acknowledge, and then we want to see if it's going to happen again, because maybe it is just a wonky one-off cycle. If it's not, if we are seeing more spotting, then we're going to investigate. Why is that happening? I actually think we do have an episode on spotting causes and labs. If we do, I will link it. I can't remember off the top of my head. If we don't, I will add it to the list so that we have that coming out in the spring at some point. Another one is shorter luteal phases. So obviously when you're tracking your cycle, you can see when you're ovulating, you can see how long your luteal phase is. We ideally want that to be 12 to 16 days. So maybe you are someone who averages 12 and now all of a sudden you have an 11, right? And you're panicked. And honest to goodness, I don't like seeing that either, right? That makes me go, ugh, cringe. Like, are we going to have to make some changes? Are we going to have to dig in? Like, what could be possibly different? But before we get caught in the doom spiral, we're going to remind ourselves, okay, I've charted this. I have collected the data. One wonky cycle isn't a trend yet. Let's see what happens next cycle. If it happens again, then we're going to make adjustments. Maybe you're also someone who's just had delayed ovulation. Maybe you typically ovulate on day 14, but your temp doesn't shift till day 18 this time. Again, this is something that really bothers people because the textbooks, the internet, our family doctors tell us that we ovulate on day 14. So if you don't, it makes you feel like something is wrong, but it's not. And when we have delayed ovulation, my biggest thing is, okay, you've maybe ovulated 3 or 4 days later than you're used to. Fine. Is there a cause for that? And then the bigger question is, well, what did your luteal phase do? If your luteal phase stayed a good, strong length of, on average, 14 days, okay, fine. This is not a problem. But if your luteal phase was shorter with the delayed ovulation, this is a bigger issue that we want to look into. But again, one wonky cycle isn't a trend yet, so we're not going to spiral in a one-off situation. We are going to see, does this happen again? And then make adjustments if we need to. These are just some of the examples I pulled from some of our FCM clients and questions that we get through the week inside office hours. But some reasons that we can have wonky cycles are, and things you want to always ask yourself, if you're like, this cycle is off, something looks weird, this does not look normal. These are the things that I ask my clients. Have you traveled recently? A lot of times people are like, oh yeah, I went away this weekend. Or, oh yeah, we just got back from Mexico. Okay, travel, even if it's good travel, right? Even if it's travel to help reduce stress, it still has the potential to impact your cycle. Were you on antibiotics? Did you have to take antibiotics? This might be something that impacts your cycle. How was your stress this cycle? Was it higher? Was it lower? Because that also could play a role. Did you make any changes? Did they add any new supplements? Did they add any new medications? Did they change anything that they were taking? Did they take any supplements or medications away? These things, even if we're adding good stuff to your body can have a moment of what the F, right? And just have a bit of a blip. And this is another reason why one wonky cycle isn't a trend yet, because there's little things, even good things for your body, that can potentially cause a blip in the system. And then you just go on to your normal pattern. Or maybe you have a new pattern that's better. We love that too, right? So travel, antibiotics, how's your stress? Have you made any changes? And how's your sleep? If there's been big changes to sleep, big increases in insomnia, environment, and where you're sleeping, that can also play a role, and that can impact your cycle. The fertility journey can be stressful, so finding pockets of joy and a sense of calm through your day is an important part of regulating your nervous system. Cozy Earth believes your 5 to 9 should consist of relaxation, rejuvenation, unwinding, and embracing a sense of calm, which is key to your fertility success. Give yourself the gift of luxury comfort right in your own home with their amazingly soft bamboo sheets. I just washed mine and put them back on my bed, and they somehow got softer. I'm actually shocked. They also have amazing pajamas, bath towels, and you can try them risk-free with their 100-night sleep trial. Sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth, so you can enjoy 40% off your purchase at cozyearth.com with the code FCM, and let them know that you listen to the Fertility Confidence podcast on your post-purchase survey. We want to also look at if this is going to, right? We're not just doing nothing. I think that's the important thing, because no one loves to be told like, oh yeah, this looks weird, but like, we're just going to sit here and just see what happens. So our philosophy is like, okay, this is just one wonky cycle. It's not a trend yet. We're not going to make any big grand gestures, but we are going to be proactive in terms of thinking ahead to the root cause. Are there any reasons that can explain this in this moment? That way, if it does happen again, we can then have a moment of being like, well, I didn't travel this cycle, so we know that wasn't the case. Now we're getting more in line with trending data. Or if you make changes, we can kind of start to play around with the changes that you made. If we took a supplement out or added a supplement in, do we want to make an adjustment to that? We had a client last week who brought 2 wonky cycle charts to us, right? She's like, my last 2 cycles have been really weird. The only change, and I agreed. I was like, yeah, these charts look off. And the only change she had made was adding in these new products. And I was like, you know what? Let's just pull those out and see what happens, because it's a weird coincidence. And they definitely had hormonal impact. So I didn't want to mess around or wait with that. We're not going to sit on things that are like very obvious reasons. We're going to make smart choices with our data. Another thing that we help our clients do is stay calm during their wonky cycles, right? Because again, we're stuck in that doom spiral. It's really easy in the fertility realm to get in the doom spiral. Everything's a problem. And when you're trying to get pregnant and you think there's something wrong with your cycle, how triggering is that, right? If that's a big trigger for you, again, valid. I think that makes a lot of sense. And this is something that we want to really start utilizing our mindset tools for to help you get out of that. So how do we stay calm when we feel like things look off, but we're not sure if it's a problem yet? We want to remind yourself that it's very normal to have an off cycle or 2 in a year. Women on average are going to have anywhere from, let's say 10 if you have long cycles, to 14, 15 cycles a year. And obviously there's variation with that depending on your body. To have 1 or 2 cycles in that just are a bit off, statistical average, like that makes sense, right? It's not a perfect system. And again, we've already talked about some things that impact our body: travel, antibiotics, stress, sleep, supplement changes. Those things are going to happen through the year. So it's very within the realm of normal for us to be like, oh yeah, this is a wonky cycle. Maybe this was just my wonky cycle. You know when else I always find cycles are wonky, and we actually do warn our clients about this? January. So after Christmas, because December is typically a higher stress month, there's usually travel. There's typically a lot going along around with the holidays. January is a very high rate of WTF cycles and seasonal changes. So I do find the transition, especially from summer into winter, like summer to fall. And granted, I'm in Southern Ontario, so we obviously have like intense seasons. You might not live in a very seasonal location. And if that's true, hopefully you've chosen a warm location to not enjoy seasons in, and not a cold one, but to each their own. And I do find that sometimes that transition, for whatever reason, can just be a bit of a blip in the system. So other things to think about if this happens to you consistently and you're like, every May I have a weird cycle. It's like, well, you know what? You probably just have a weird cycle when you transition from spring to summer. Cool. Like, isn't the body such a weird and mysterious thing sometimes? Like, sometimes that is the energy that we have to come at it with to keep ourselves cool, calm, and collected. The next piece to stay calm is our strategy in terms of being proactive. Look back on this cycle. What was different? If we tracked this with our clients, I would say 80%. Let's give a range of like 70 to 80% of the time when I'm like, what was different this cycle? Someone always has something where they're like, oh, you know what? Like, actually, we went away this cycle. Or they'll go, Kelsey, can stress cause this? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've been like a 12 out of 10 for stress for the last couple of weeks. Okay, cool. So look back, reflect. If you're charting, add this into like your journaling practice of like journaling these things out. Look back on this. What could potentially explain it? What could potentially be different? And then the last thing is, what is the evidence that this is a problem? And this is a little bit of like a sneaky CBT tactic, right? Like, if this is the first time you've ever had a wonky cycle, or let's say this is the first time in 6 months, let's say you maybe do randomly get them through the year, but you haven't had one in a while, and you're like, well, every other cycle has been normal. I've done my labs. I went through Fertility Labs 101 and checked all of my optimal levels. They look good. Like, my hormones look good. Most of the time, I have a really normal cycle. Like, this, what is the evidence that this is potentially a problem? Where the answers to this would be like, yes, this is problematic, is if this is a trend, right? If this is a common occurrence. If you're like, well, I always only have a 10-day luteal phase. That's not just a one-off cycle trend. That is a trend that we need to look into. So when we're thinking about wonky cycles, I want you to think back to, is there any evidence that this is a problem? Meaning, has this happened before? And is it becoming more frequent? Do you maybe get a wonky cycle once a year, but now all of a sudden it's been like every other cycle that's wonky? Okay, that's a pattern. That's a trend. That's more evidence to say, this is something I need to look into and go through. And if you're feeling like there is a trend, like I'm just saying, there is a trend in my wonky cycles, Dr. Kelsey, I am having a wonky cycle like every 2 or every 3 cycles, and you're not sure what's going on, we need to dig deeper into that. We need to figure out, like, there's a reason. That's the biggest piece here that I think our standard medical system, and our general practitioners, because this isn't their zone of genius, and I'm not saying that in a shameful way, it just isn't, right? That is where they miss the mark, because in their training, any sort of menstrual irregularity or issue, the treatment is birth control. And we can't treat with birth control here, right? Because you're trying to get pregnant. And so it doesn't leave them with an arsenal of lots of things to help with. So for them, it's just like, it's fine, right? Or maybe they will refer you on to an OBGYN or an RE. But the reality is it still might not actually be the right journey for you to actually dig down into the root cause piece of what's going on. If you are finding the trend in your wonky cycles, we need to find the root cause. We need to find the why. There is a reason. And then we need to lay the foundational groundwork and strategically treat the root cause and the reason. This is what's going to speed up the process for you. This is when it's going to get you back to having a regular rhythmic cycle that is optimized for fertility. It's what's going to optimize your body for pregnancy. And your cycle is so impacted by the way that you eat, the way that you sleep, how you move your body, your lack of stress resiliency. These things are so important. So if you're not having these conversations with your care provider, or you don't have a care team around you and you're like, I need to work on those things, but I have absolutely zero idea where to start, this is where Fertility Confidence Method can really come in and be that care team for you. You're going to get myself and our team of amazing practitioners to help support you strategically through your fertility journey and personalize the process for you every single step of the way. So if that's the type of support that you're looking for, that you need, come on over, book a call. Let's get to know each other a little bit better. Make sure that FCM is a good fit for you because we don't work with everybody. Answer any and all the questions that you have, and I'll pop the link for that in the show notes. And you can just head over to downloads.kelseyduncan.com/results and schedule your free clarity call. And then we can see how we can support you through this process. Okay, so you are all going to go away from this episode saying one wonky cycle is not a trend yet, right? One wonky cycle is not a trend. When you get a wonky cycle, we don't need to fall into the doom spiral right away. And this is where your mindset toolkit can come into play. Remember to ask yourself these clarifying questions. If you are in FCM, obviously, bring it to me. Let me help you talk you off of the ledge, off of the doom spiral. This is what I do each and every day for our clients because it's a common thing and it's really triggering in the fertility space because your cycle is so directly impacted to your quote unquote ability to get pregnant. I don't think that's necessarily the right term, but we link those two together, right? As women, we link our cycle with our ability to get pregnant completely. And when our cycle feels off, that can feel really detrimental to our fertility journey. And I'm here to tell you that little tiny blips in the system are going to happen. And you now hopefully have the tools and strategies to help you work through that. And if you need more support, you know where to find me. Okay. That is it for this episode. And I will see you guys in the next one.